I am sitting in a law office watching my parents sign documents with trembling hands. There is no satisfaction in this moment, just emptiness. I keep hearing their words echo in my head. You will never see that money again, son. I trusted my family for 32 years. I believed blood mattered more than money. But the moment I saw $2.9 million disappear from my account and heard the laughter of the people who gave me life, something inside me shattered. That is when I understood sometimes strangers treat you better than family ever will. And sometimes you have to set a trap for your own blood just to save yourself. Before I tell you how I turned my biggest loss into my smartest move, I need you to do something for me. Drop a comment below and let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button if you have ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted completely. And subscribe to this channel because what I am about to share gets absolutely wild. I am talking witness protection program level of chaos. What my parents did not know was that the $2.9 million they stole was not even my real money. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this whole nightmare started. Growing up, I was the invisible child. My name is Cassidy, and I was born in 1991 in a small town outside Columbus, Ohio. For 3 years, I was the center of my parents' world. Then my sister Harper arrived, and everything changed overnight. From the moment she took her first breath, I became a background character in my own family's story. Let me paint you a picture of how different our childhoods were. When I turned 10 years old, my birthday celebration consisted of grocery store pizza and a sheet cake from the bakery section. Nothing fancy, just functional. 3 years later, when Harper turned 7, my parents threw her a party with a bouncy castle, a magician, and over 50 guests. The backyard looked like a carnival. I remember standing in the kitchen watching through the window, wondering what I had done wrong to deserve so little while she got so much. The pattern continued through our teenage years. When it came time for college, my father sat me down and explained that boys need to learn independence. He told me community college was the smart choice, that I would appreciate my education more if I worked for it. I believed him. I took out loans, worked 2 jobs, and put myself through school. Meanwhile, Harper received a full ride to a private university, courtesy of our parents' savings account. They covered her tuition, her housing, her meal plan, everything. When I asked why the rules were different for her, my mother simply said, "Your sister needs more support. You have always been so capable on your own." They were right about one thing: I was capable. I had to be. At 14, I started a paper route, waking up at 5 in the morning before school to deliver newspapers in the freezing Ohio winters. At 16, I waited tables at a local diner, smelling like grease and coffee every night. At 18, I juggled 2 jobs while taking classes at community college, studying computer science because I knew technology was the future. While other kids my age were at parties, I was teaching myself how to code, watching free tutorials on YouTube until 3 in the morning. By 22, I dropped out of college and moved to Silicon Valley with $800 in my pocket and a dream that probably looked ridiculous to anyone watching. I joined a tiny startup that paid barely enough to cover rent in a shared apartment with 5 other guys. We ate ramen for dinner most nights, but I was learning more than I ever could have in a classroom. 3 years later, that startup got acquired by a major tech company. My equity payout was enough to finally breathe. At 27, I co-founded my own company with 2 friends from the startup world. We built artificial intelligence software for healthcare providers, helping hospitals manage patient data more efficiently. The work was grueling. We pulled countless all-nighters, maxed out credit cards, and lived on hope and determination. But at 30 years old, our company went public. The IPO changed my life. Suddenly, I had a net worth around $8 million with $2.9 million sitting in cash savings. Here is the thing, though: I did not change my lifestyle. I still lived in a modest 1-bedroom apartment in San Francisco. I still drove the same Honda Civic I bought used 5 years earlier. I still made my coffee at home and packed my lunch most days. People who saw me on the street would never guess I had millions in the bank. That was intentional. I watched too many stories of lottery winners and young entrepreneurs who flashed their wealth and ended up broke or worse. My goal was simple: save aggressively, invest wisely, retire early, and live life on my own terms. Throughout all of this, I maintained contact with my family. I called home on holidays, visited for Thanksgiving and Christmas when I could. I even sent money occasionally, a few $1,000s here and there when my parents mentioned struggling with bills. They knew I worked in tech and assumed I was doing okay, but I never told them the real numbers. As far as they knew, I was just another programmer making a decent salary, nothing extraordinary. Then about 6 months ago, everything shifted. Harper graduated from college at 27 with a business degree and zero work experience. She had an idea for a boutique fitness studio chain, one of those trendy places that combines yoga, cycling, and overpriced juice bars. She needed $2 million to open her first 3 locations. She pitched her concept to several investors, but they all passed. Her business plan was weak, her experience non-existent, and the fitness industry was already oversaturated. That is when my parents started calling more frequently. The conversations always began casually enough, asking about my work and my life. But they always circled back to Harper's dream. My mother would say things like, "Your sister just needs someone to believe in her." My father would add, "You understand business, Cassidy. Do you not think she deserves a chance?" They invited me home more often, emphasizing how much they missed me, how important family was, how we should stick together. Last Thanksgiving, I drove home to Ohio for dinner. The entire evening revolved around Harper's business plan. She pulled out her iPad and walked me through presentations filled with aspirational photos and optimistic projections. My mother watched me expectantly, while my father nodded along, clearly already sold on the idea. When Harper finished, my mother touched my arm and asked, "Would it not be wonderful to invest in your sister's future?" I gave her honest business advice, pointed out the risks and the gaps in her plan, but I did not offer money. The temperature in the room dropped immediately. Dinner ended earlier than usual. After dinner, I excused myself to use the bathroom. When I returned to the living room, I noticed my phone had been moved slightly on the coffee table. It was a small detail, but I always place my phone face down in the same spot. This time it was face up and rotated. My mother asked me out of nowhere, "What bank do you use, sweetie?" The question felt odd, too casual for how specific it was. Then Harper chimed in, "You probably have pretty good savings by now, right?" I laughed it off and changed the subject, but something felt wrong. 2 months later, I returned home for Christmas. I slept in my old bedroom, the same room I had as a teenager, now converted into a guest space. One morning I woke up early and noticed my bedroom door was slightly open. I distinctly remembered locking it the night before because the lock was loose, and the door tended to swing open on its own. My laptop was on the desk, and when I touched it, the metal was still warm. Someone had tried to access it recently. Thank goodness for password protection. Later that week, I caught my mother holding an envelope addressed to me. It was a bank statement that had been sent to their address because I had never updated my mailing information after moving to California. She claimed she was just about to forward it to me, but I noticed the envelope had been steamed open partially. The glue was loosened at one corner, a trick people use to read mail without completely destroying the envelope. Then came the direct ask. My father cornered me in the garage and presented what he called an investment opportunity. He suggested I put in $500,000 for Harper's business, promising I would see returns once the studios became profitable. When I politely declined, explaining that my money was already allocated to other investments, his face transformed. For just a second, I saw anger flash across his features before he controlled it. Harper overheard my refusal and started crying silently, then said, "I guess family does not matter to some people." I drove back to California, feeling uneasy. My instincts screamed that something was off, but I wanted to believe I was being paranoid. Then 2 weeks after Christmas, I logged into my bank account for a routine check and noticed something alarming in the security log. Someone had attempted to access my account 4 times from an IP address in Ohio. All 4 attempts failed because they did not have my password, but they tried. Someone in my hometown was actively trying to break into my bank account. In that moment, everything clicked into place. This was not about asking anymore. They were planning something. I did not confront them immediately. Instead, I made a decision that would either save me or make me look like a paranoid lunatic. I upgraded my security with 2-factor authentication and set up alerts for any unusual activity. But I also did something more calculated. I started planning a trap. A few weeks later, I found an excuse to visit home again, telling my parents I missed them and wanted to spend more time together. What they did not know was that I brought several hidden cameras disguised as ordinary objects. I had a small alarm clock with a camera built in a phone charger that was actually an audio recorder, and I installed keystroke logging software on my laptop with an easy-to-guess password. When my parents left for work and Harper went to the gym, I set everything up in strategic locations around the house. I also left some documents lying around that looked accidentally careless. I printed out a bank statement showing my $2.9 million balance and left it visible on the desk in my room. I opened my laptop and set the password to something they might guess, a combination of family birthdays. I wanted to see what they would do when they thought I was not paying attention. That evening, I told everyone I was going out to meet old friends from high school. Instead, I sat in my car parked down the street watching live camera feeds on my phone. What I saw made my stomach turn. At 8:30 p.m., my mother and Harper entered my room. Harper tried my laptop password, failed a few times, then systematically tried everyone's birthdays. When she entered her own birthday and the laptop unlocked, she gasped out loud. "Oh my God, look at this," she said, pointing at the screen. They had opened my banking app, and there it was, $2.9 million in clear numbers. My mother leaned in close and whispered, "I knew he was hiding money." Harper pulled out her phone and started taking photographs of everything. She captured my account number, routing number, balance investment portfolio, every piece of financial information visible on the screen. My mother stood guard by the door, glancing down the hallway nervously. "This is more than enough for your business," my mother said. Harper responded, "But how do we actually get it?" My mother's reply chilled me. "We will figure it out. He owes you this anyway. He got everything: independence, success, freedom. You deserve your turn." I sat in my car, hands shaking as I held my phone, watching my own mother and sister plot against me. But I kept recording. I needed more evidence. The next night, I pretended to go to bed early, claiming jet lag was hitting me hard. I left the audio recorder running in the living room, hidden inside what looked like a regular phone charger plugged into the wall outlet. Then I lay in bed upstairs, listening through earbuds, connected to my phone, as the recorder transmitted everything in real time. My father's voice came through clearly. I talked to Jerry at the bank. Jerry was my father's friend, someone who had worked at the local bank for 20 years. "There are ways to access accounts if we have the right information," my father continued. He suggested forging a power of attorney document, or claiming a medical emergency that required access to my funds. He said his connections could make it look legitimate, that banks trusted him after decades of working in the industry himself. My mother's role became clear next. "I can practice his signature," she said. "I have seen it enough times on birthday cards and documents. We tell the bank he authorized a transfer for a family investment. Cassidy never checks his account daily anyway. By the time he notices, the money will already be moved." Harper's voice came through, uncertain at first. "Is this not illegal?" My father dismissed her concern immediately. "It is not stealing from a stranger, it is family money redistribution. Think of all the money we spent raising him too." I almost laughed bitterly at that lie. They barely spent anything on me compared to what they gave Harper. But my mother reinforced the justification. "He has $8 million total. He will not even miss $3 million. And honestly, he should have helped you already. This is just taking what should have been offered voluntarily." They discussed their timeline. They would execute the plan in 2 weeks once I was back in California and busy with work. First, they would transfer the money to a newly created family investment account, then move it to Harper's business account. They would make it look like a legitimate family business venture. My father would claim I signed authorization papers over Christmas. My mother would call the bank pretending to be my assistant. They had my social security number from old tax documents I had stored at their house. They had my mother's maiden name, which was a common security question. They had everything they needed to steal from me. The most painful part of the recording came near the end. Harper said I always felt like he got the brains and I got nothing. But he chose a life of being alone and boring. This money will actually do something good. My business will help people get healthy and feel confident. He will just hoard it like a dragon sitting on gold. My mother agreed enthusiastically. Cassidy does not even have a girlfriend. No kids, no real life. What is he saving for? He lives like a college student in that tiny apartment. Harper has a real future to build marriage someday, a family, an actual life. This is investing in something meaningful, not just numbers in a bank account. My father added his perspective. We gave him life. That is worth more than $3 million. Besides, tech people always bounce back. He will be fine. Harper needs this now, not 10 years from now, when it is too late. Then came the moment that sealed their fate. Harper asked, "What if he finds out?" My father laughed a genuine mocking laugh. "What is he going to do, Sue, his own parents? Take us to court?" My mother joined in laughing. "He is too soft for that. He will be hurt, maybe angry for a while, but he will get over it. He always does." All three of them laughed together, and then my father imitated my voice mockingly. "You will never see that money again, son." More laughter filled the recording. I sat in the dark bedroom upstairs, tears streaming down my face, listening to the three people who were supposed to love me most in the world plot my financial destruction while laughing about it. This was not about money anymore. This was about realizing that my family had never actually loved me. They saw me as a resource, a backup plan, an ATM machine with a heartbeat. My first instinct was to run downstairs and confront them immediately. But something stopped me. A cold, calculated thought formed in my mind, pushing through the emotional pain. If they wanted to steal from me, I would let them try. But I would control every aspect of what they took. I would give them exactly what they were looking for, and it would destroy them. The next morning I acted completely normal. I hugged everyone goodbye, thanked them for a wonderful visit, and told them I loved them. They smiled, hugged me back, and waved as I drove away. None of them knew I had recorded everything. During the entire 8-hour drive back to California, I planned every detail of the trap I was about to set. The first person I met with was Sarah Kim, one of the top criminal defense attorneys in San Francisco. I walked into her office with a laptop full of video files and audio recordings. She listened to everything, watched the footage of my family planning the theft, and read through the transcripts I had prepared. When I finished presenting the evidence, she sat back in her chair and said, "This is textbook conspiracy to commit wire fraud. If they go through with this, they are looking at federal charges, potentially 20 years in prison." I shook my head. "I do not want them in prison. I want leverage." Sarah smiled slightly. "Smart. Let's build a case file so airtight that they will have no choice but to comply with whatever terms you set." We spent the next week documenting everything: time-stamped videos, authenticated audio recordings, detailed transcripts, and a comprehensive paper trail. When we finished, we had enough evidence to bury them in both criminal and civil court. Next, I met with my financial advisor, David Torres. I explained the situation without revealing too many personal details at first, just that I needed to protect a large sum of money from people who were planning to steal it. David suggested moving my real assets into an irrevocable trust and opening offshore accounts where the money would be completely protected. But I had a different idea, something more elegant. I asked David, "What if I let them steal money that is not actually mine?" He leaned forward, intrigued. I explained my plan. I would borrow $2.9 million from a private lender, someone I knew who had liquidity and trusted me. I would temporarily put that borrowed money into my regular account. If my parents stole it, they would be stealing borrowed funds, not my actual savings. I could then claim to the lender that the money was stolen, which would make my parents legally liable for my debt to that lender. David thought for a moment, then grinned. "That is brilliant. You are turning their theft into them owing you money. The legal liability shifts completely." I reached out to Marcus Chen. Wait, I cannot use that name. Let me call him Marcus Brennan, a fellow entrepreneur who had sold his company 2 years earlier and was sitting on significant cash looking for short-term lending opportunities. I explained that I needed to borrow $2.9 million for approximately 30 days as part of a legal strategy. I offered to pay him $50,000 in interest for the month plus full legal documentation, protecting him as the lender. Marcus agreed immediately. Within a week, the borrowed money was sitting in my account, looking exactly like my personal savings. Now came the crucial part, making my parents believe they could successfully steal it. I called my mother and casually mentioned, "Hey Mom, I wanted you to know something important. I have a massive investment opportunity coming up next month. I am putting most of my savings into it, about $3 million. It is basically a guaranteed return, but I just wanted someone in the family to know in case anything ever happened to me." I could hear the excitement in her voice when she responded, asking questions about the timeline and details. I had just created urgency. They now knew they had to act fast before that money disappeared into an investment. To make the trap even more convincing, I sent myself an email about the fake investment opportunity and accidentally copied my parents on it. The email detailed how I would be transferring $2.9 million into the investment fund in exactly 3 weeks. I also deliberately weakened my account security, changing my password to something more guessable and temporarily removing two-factor authentication. I made it look like I was distracted and careless, too focused on my big investment to pay attention to basic security. Meanwhile, my father's friend Jerry from the bank contacted my father, telling him he had noticed increased activity on my account. This was perfect. My father asked Jerry to help facilitate access to my account for a supposed family emergency, and Jerry agreed. Everything was falling into place, exactly as I predicted. Emotionally, I felt nothing during this preparation phase. The pain had transformed into cold calculation. This was not about revenge. This was about protecting myself from toxic people who happened to share my DNA. I was building a legal trap so sophisticated that they would have no choice but to pay me back everything plus damages or face federal prison time. 3 days later, it happened. I was at my office when my phone buzzed with a transaction alert at 11:47 a.m. Someone had initiated a wire transfer of $2,900,000 from my account. The transfer was heading to a newly created entity called Harper Sullivan Family Investment, LLC. The authorization came from a forged power of attorney document that my father had created using his bank connections. I had hired a private investigator to watch my parents' house that morning. He sent me real-time updates via text. My father and Harper had arrived at the bank at 11:15. They met with Jerry in a private office for 30 minutes. When they emerged, Harper was literally jumping with joy in the parking lot. My father hugged her tightly. They drove directly to a restaurant to celebrate their successful theft, never once considering that I might have anticipated their every move. That afternoon, my mother called me. Her voice was sweet and fake. "Honey, how are you?" I played along, telling her I was having a busy day at work. She responded, "That is nice, sweetie. I love you." Then she hung up. She did not mention the $2.9 million that had just been stolen from my account. Neither did my father or Harper. By evening, the transfer had cleared completely. I decided to make the call I had been planning. I dialed my parents' number and let the panic seep into my voice. "Mom, something is wrong with my bank account. There is a huge transfer I did not authorize." My mother's voice dripped with false concern. "Oh no, that is terrible. Are you sure you did not make a mistake?" I pushed harder. "It is all my savings. Nearly $3 million just disappeared." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then my mother's voice changed completely, dropping the caring tone. "Maybe you should have been more generous when you had the chance." I asked her to put me on speakerphone. Within seconds, Harper and my father joined the call. I asked directly, "Did you take my money?" My father's response was cold and matter-of-fact. "We borrowed it for Harper's future. She needed it more than you did." Harper added, "You would never help me willingly." We had to take action. I threatened to call the police, and that is when they started laughing. All three of them laughing at me through the phone. My father said, "Go ahead. Sue your own parents. See how that looks to everyone who knows us." My mother delivered the line they had practiced. You will never see that money again, son. Harper's voice was triumphant. Thank you for your contribution to my success, big brother. Maybe now you will learn what family really means. They hung up on me, still laughing. I sat in my office staring at my phone. My attorney Sarah was listening on a second line, recording everything. Did you get all that I asked her? She responded immediately. Every single word. They just confessed to wire fraud on a recorded line. We have everything we need now. I took a deep breath. Good. Let's end this. The next morning at exactly 6 a.m., I sent an email that would change everything. The recipients were my father, mother, and Harper. I also copied the FBI's white-collar crime unit and my attorney, Sarah Kim. The subject line read, regarding unauthorized wire transfer. The email explained everything in clinical detail. I thanked them for stealing $2.9 million and informed them that I had recorded their entire conspiracy. Then, I revealed the truth about the money. It was not mine. I had borrowed it from a private lender specifically to catch them. The loan agreement stated clearly that if the funds were stolen, the borrower was not liable, but the thief was. They now owed the lender $2.9 million plus 18% annual interest. I attached the loan documents as proof. I also attached video recordings of them planning the theft, audio transcripts of their conspiracy bank records, showing the forged documents and proof of wire fraud, which carries up to 20 years in federal prison. I explained that Jerry, my father's friend at the bank, had already been fired and was facing his own charges. Then I gave them an ultimatum. They had 48 hours to return. All $2.9 million, pay me $500,000 in damages for emotional distress and legal fees. Sign a document relinquishing any future claim to my assets, and have Harper dissolve her LLC immediately. If they refused, I would file criminal charges with the FBI, file a civil lawsuit for $5 million, and let the lenders sue them separately. I made it clear that this would become public record, destroying Harper's business reputation before she even started costing my father his banking license and making my mother an accessory to a felony. I ended the email with one line. You said family helps family. I am helping you stay out of prison. You have 48 hours. Their reactions came quickly. At 9 a.m., my mother called, hysterical and crying. You would not really do this to your own mother. I responded calmly. You did it to your own son. I am just defending myself. She tried to manipulate me. We raised you. We gave you life. I replied. No, you did not raise me. You raised Harper. I raised myself. Then I hung up. At 10:30, my father called, his voice angry and threatening. You are bluffing. No son would destroy his family like this. I corrected him. You destroyed this family when you chose stealing over asking. You could have worked for Harper's dream like I worked for mine. His voice broke when he realized I was serious. Please, Jerry will lose everything, his pension, his career. I stayed firm. Jerry committed a federal crime. That is on him, not me. Harper sent a long text message that afternoon talking about her destroyed dreams and how she had looked up to me her whole life. She asked how I could do this to her. I did not respond. There was nothing left to say. 46 hours later, we met at my attorney's office. My father, mother, and Harper looked haggard and terrified. They had not slept. They brought a certified check for $3,400,000, $2.9 million, returned plus $500,000 in damages. Harper's LLC dissolution papers were signed. They signed documents, promising no future claims to any of my assets. To raise that money, my father had taken out an equity loan against their house. My mother had sold her jewelry collection and her car. Harper had drained every penny from the trust fund my parents had set up for her future. They were financially devastated. My father looked at me with pure hatred and said, I hope you are proud of yourself. I responded, I am proud that I survived a family that saw me as a wallet instead of a person. My mother's voice shook when she said, You are no longer our son. I replied calmly, I stopped being your son the moment you laughed about stealing from me. Harper tried one last time. I will never forgive you. I met her eyes and said, Good. That makes two of us. I stood up, collected the check and the signed documents, and walked out of that office. I did not look back. I felt nothing except relief. They had shown me who they really were, and I had protected myself. That was all that mattered. Later, my attorney Sarah told me it was the most satisfying case she had ever worked. I simply replied I did not play them. I just gave them enough rope to hang themselves. The first month after everything ended was strange. I blocked all their phone numbers and changed my address on every official document. They never knew where I actually lived anyway, since I had always been private about my personal life. Going no contact was easier than I expected, but the emotions that followed were complicated. I did not feel triumphant or victorious. I just felt empty at first. I grieved, but not for the people themselves. I grieved for the idea of family that I had held on to for so long. I mourned the fantasy that maybe someday they would see me as valuable beyond my bank account. Letting go of that hope hurt more than the actual betrayal. My close friends rallied around me when I finally told them the full story. Their reactions were unanimous and fierce. You did the right thing. That is not family, those are parasites. Their support helped more than they knew. One friend who was a therapist suggested I talk to someone professionally about processing everything. I started seeing Dr. Patricia Wells, a psychologist who specialized in family trauma. Over several months, we worked through my childhood neglect, the recent betrayal, and the complicated feelings that came with cutting off your entire biological family. Dr. Wells introduced me to concepts I had never heard before: narcissistic family systems, golden child versus scapegoat dynamics, and how toxic family structures operate. I learned that I had been cast as the scapegoat from the moment Harper was born. The golden child gets everything. The scapegoat gets blamed for everything. This was never about money. It was about power control and maintaining their preferred family narrative. Understanding the psychology behind their behavior did not make it hurt less, but it did make it make sense. I realized they were never going to change because the system worked for them. Harper got everything she wanted. My parents got to feel like heroes for supporting her, and I was supposed to quietly fund their delusions. Walking away was not cruel. It was survival. 6 months after the settlement, my life looked completely different. I started volunteering at a youth center that supported teenagers from difficult family situations. I mentored kids who reminded me of myself, capable, resilient, but starving for someone to believe in them. Giving back in that way helped me heal parts of myself I did not even know were broken. I also started dating again. I met Emma, a third-grade teacher with a warm smile and a genuinely loving family. The first time I had dinner with her parents, I almost cried, watching how they interacted. They asked about my day because they actually cared, not because they wanted something. They celebrated small wins with genuine enthusiasm. Emma's family showed me what healthy family dynamics looked like, and it was nothing like what I grew up with. In my career, I made changes too. I stepped back from the intense startup grind and focused on mentoring young entrepreneurs, especially those from disadvantaged backgrounds. I understood what it felt like to build something from nothing with zero support system. I wanted to be for others what no one had been for me. Financially, I put my money to work in ways that mattered. I set up an anonymous scholarship fund for first-generation college students. I made donations to foster care organizations. I invested in my future, but I also invested in making the world slightly better for people who started with nothing the way I had. Physically and mentally, I finally addressed the stress I had carried for years. I started exercising regularly, sleeping better, and actually enjoying my life instead of just surviving it. The constant anxiety about family obligations and surprise phone calls disappeared. I could breathe. The lessons I learned from this nightmare changed me fundamentally. I learned that blood does not guarantee loyalty. You cannot choose your biological family, but you absolutely can choose who stays in your life. Some relationships are toxic. No matter how hard you try to fix them, and setting boundaries is not cruelty. It is self-preservation. Real family loves you without conditions, without scorecards, without expecting payment for basic decency. I learned that money reveals character but does not create it. People who genuinely love you will not steal from you or laugh about your pain. Success brings out the truth in people around you. Protecting your assets, even from family, is not paranoia. It is wisdom born from experience. I learned things about myself, too. I am stronger than I thought. I can survive losing the people who were supposed to love me most. I deserve respect and genuine affection, not manipulation disguised as family obligation. I am not responsible for other people's choices, their failures, or their greed. Setting that trap was not about revenge. It was about self-defense and refusing to be a victim. The question of forgiveness came up often in therapy. Dr. Wells never pushed me to forgive them, which I appreciated. She explained that forgiveness is not something you owe to people who are not sorry. Forgiveness does not require reconciliation. You can move forward without forgiving, and peace comes from acceptance rather than forcing yourself to make nice with people who hurt you intentionally. 2 years have passed since the settlement. I am engaged to Emma now, and we are building a life surrounded by people who actually care about us. I have not heard from my biological family since that day in the attorney's office. Through a mutual acquaintance, I heard that Harper never opened her fitness studios because the money went to paying me back. My parents are bitter and struggling financially. When I heard that, I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no sadness, just complete indifference. They made their choices, and those choices have consequences. Here is what I want you to understand. Sometimes the hardest trap to escape is not made of bars and locks. It is made of obligation guilt and the belief that you owe something to people just because you share DNA. The most difficult prison to leave is the one built by family members who see you as a resource instead of a person. That $2.9 million they stole, it was the best money I never actually lost, because it bought me something priceless: freedom from people who never loved me at all. It showed me their true nature before they could do worse damage. It gave me the evidence I needed to walk away with my head held high and my conscience clear. If you are watching this and you see yourself in my story, if you have family members who only call when they need something, who belittle your success while demanding you share it, who make you feel guilty for having boundaries, I want you to deducing. Hear this. You are not wrong for protecting yourself. You are not cruel for walking away. You are not selfish for refusing to fund other people's dreams at the expense of your own security and peace. Blood does not entitle anyone to abuse you, steal from you, or treat you as less than human. You deserve better. Sometimes the family you choose, the friends who show up when things are hard, the partner who loves you without conditions, those people matter more than the family you were born into. So, let me ask you, have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who saw you as an ATM instead of a person? Have you ever walked away from toxic people, even though it hurt? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I genuinely want to hear your stories. Hit that like button if this resonated with you in any way. Subscribe to this channel if you want more real talk about navigating difficult family dynamics and protecting yourself from people who do not have your best interests at heart. And please share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who is struggling with the guilt of setting boundaries or walking away from family. Thank you for listening to my story. I know it was heavy, but I hope it helps someone out there who feels trapped by family obligation. Remember, you do not owe anyone access to your life, your money, or your peace of mind just because they are related to you. Protect yourself first. Build the life you deserve. And surround yourself with people who celebrate your success instead of trying to steal it. Take care of yourselves out there. You deserve families, chosen or biological, who actually love you.